All right. In the next couple examples, we're going to graph some sine and cosine functions that have a combination of both an a and a b value. And so I wrote out a little bit of a kind of instructions on how to go about this. But rather than me reading this to you, it's probably better to demonstrate the process just um, by going through this example here. Okay, so this first um, this first example, we're asked to sketch a graph of y equals 3 sine of 1/2 theta. All right, so first thing I'm going to do now in this case, well, let me just briefly go back up here. Um, the first step is if b is negative, then we need to use symmetry to rewrite it, sort of like we did in whatever that example was. Was that example? That was example 10, right, where we had a negative b value, and we had to use the symmetry to rewrite the function. Okay, so we can get rid of that negative b. All right, so we're not gonna have to worry about negative b because we're gonna get rid of it first of all. All right, so if this a sine has odd symmetry, cosine has an even symmetry, so we can always get rid of that negative if the b is negative. All right. So next thing it says to do is find the amplitude, find the period. Okay, let's just do that. All right, so let's find the amplitude. Now the amplitude, the a, right, when we write this down here, so the a is equal to 3, right? So what's the amplitude? That is the amplitude. So the amplitude, I'll abbreviate, amplitude is equal to 3. Okay? And the period. Now the b value in this case is 1/2, right? So the period p is going to be, remember, it's 2 pi over b, which b is 1/2. Let me go ahead and just put that in, 1/2. All right, so we're dividing by a fraction, so we're going to turn that into 2 pi times 2 over 1, right? When we divide by a fraction, we can multiply by the reciprocal. And so we're going to get the period is equal to, I'm going to leave myself plenty of room for my graph. So the period is just going to be 4 pi. Okay, so that's my period. All right, well, I think I'm ready to graph, right? If I know the amplitude and I know the period, I know what to do. So now it doesn't say whether to graph 1 or 2 periods. Let's just graph 1 period. We could graph 2 if we wanted to. I don't know, maybe we'll graph 2 periods for the fun of it, okay? So now if it was 2 periods, if I want to graph 2 periods, it doesn't say to graph 2 periods, but I'm just going to do it for the fun of it. All right, let's make this a nice long x-axis. So I can graph 2 periods, because 2 periods, if 1 period is 4 pi, then 2 periods is 8 pi. So I'm just going to mark out 2 periods just so we can graph 2 periods for the fun of it, right? And then remember, I take the period and I'm going to divide it into 4 equal parts, right? So halfway, this is going to be 2 pi, and then the quarter points are going to be half of half, so we're at pi and 3 pi. So I'm just marking out every pi. All right, now if I mark the middle here, halfway here would be like 6 pi, right? 6 pi, and then I could just mark out, go every pi. So this is going to be 5 pi, and this is going to be 7 pi. All right, let's start with 1 period, right? The first period is going to go from 0 to 4 pi. And so let's see, let's make this the y-axis. Let's make this the x-axis. So it's a sine function, so it's going to start at 0, 0. It's going to end at 0, 0. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Start by marking the beginning and the end of 1 period. And then it's going to cross the midline in the middle again. So the midline here is just y equals 0, which is the x-axis. So it's going to cross the x-axis at the halfway mark. Okay, and then the a is positive, so I'm going to go up to 3 at that quarter point, and then the other quarter point at -3 will be, or the other quarter point we're going to be at -3, okay? And then I can connect that up with a smooth curve. Okay, so there we go. We've connected up with a smooth curve, and we've graphed 1 period of this function. Now, again, if I want to graph another period, right? I'm just going to measure out in the x direction by another 4 pi. This time I'm just going to go to the right over here. So I know that after another 4 pi, I'll be back to where I started, right? The y value will be back to 0. And then in the middle, I'm going to be at 0. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern, right? These quarter points are going to be at 3 and -3s about there. And then I'm going to connect it up with a smooth curve. All right, so there we go. I've got 2 periods of that sine function graphed. And again, I could keep going, right? If I could graph as many periods as I want. This function is a periodic function, and those y values just keep oscillating between 3 and -3 forever. So, all right, let's try a cosine function in the next video.